Saturday, Sunday, I'm front center, looking forward to playoffs. And I keep me a double win, cause you know I gotta have it. Yeah, they say I'm just a fan. What? Well, I say I'm a fanatic. And I fast forward commercial too. I ain't going to the bathroom. You know where I'm at, I ain't hard to find. You can catch me in the lab room.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Thursday Night Football overtime. Cardinals, Niners, NFC West family business. If these two teams said they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's family business. Look, we're having some technical difficulties tonight, so I'm going to try to hang in there as long as I can with you guys. Try to get as much of this done, answer as many comments as possible. Don't know how much of this I'm going to be able to get through. I'm kind of in a transitional period with cable providers because I haven't had the most stable connections of late. So I think I'm about to make a switch. So have to bear with me. But you know what tonight signified for me, and I've talked about this on and off throughout the course of the season. First and foremost, 49ers get the win, remain undefeated at 8-0 with a 28-25 victory over the Arizona Cardinals. I said that this game was going to be close on my podcast. I said, look, it's family business. This will not be a blowout. The Cardinals will not lay down. The Cardinals had won, I believe it was 7 straight versus these San Francisco 49ers. That had no bearing nor impact on what was going to happen in this particular game. But it was worth noting. Again, family business. These teams know each other. And so I expected the Cardinals to put up a fight. At home, short week, quick turnaround, a lot of injured players for the 49ers. I thought the Cardinals could show well in this game, and they did. But I did not expect them to win. I did think it was going to be close. So everything that I thought was going to transpire pretty much did, except for one thing. I did not anticipate Jimmy G playing as well as he did, and I think that was the biggest takeaway from this game. And on and off throughout the course of the season, I've said, look, Jimmy G has to play better. If he can get to the level where this defense is, where the run game is, then this team could be a true NFC championship caliber team, because with Jimmy G playing the way he had been playing earlier in the season, kind of skittish, you know, on one week, off the next, you know, missing easy throws, that sort of thing. You felt like at some point they were going to run out of magic and they wouldn't have enough. And when I watched him tonight, this is the most confident I've seen Jimmy G look all season. And you could argue this is the most confident he's looked in a 49ers uniform. I think the most confident we've seen him probably goes back to his New England Patriot days. This looked Patriot-esque tonight. He played with the level of confidence that he's going to need to play with moving forward. And I've talked about this. Winning begets confidence. Confidence begets winning. It's a vicious, flavor, delicious cycle. And you're seeing this 49ers team start to believe every single week. And now they have just a crazy rotation of guys. And this is why it's important to have roster building. And it's important to pick players that fit your scheme. And it's important to pick players that can play at this level. They may not play at the level of your starter, but guys come in and you're looking at the 49ers, and they highlighted this throughout the night. They're 4th and 5th tackles. Justin School is a guy that I said, this guy stinks. He can't play in the league when I watched him on tape. And here he is starting for the San Francisco 49ers on an 8-0 squad, and he's playing well enough. He's not playing great, but he's playing well enough. All right? They've got another guy I've never heard of on the opposite side of him at right tackle, and he's holding it down. And this is what I'm talking about. When you have good football players and you have depth, because your depth is going to get tested. Most seasons, you're going to have injuries. Your depth is going to be tested. Do you have enough players to come and fill in? I can tell you as a Redskins fan, we got Chris Thompson on our team, and he gets hurt every year. We don't have another guy really to fill that void. They've been waiting on Jerick McKinnon. Shh, don't tell nobody about the secret weapon known as Jerick McKinnon. They've been waiting on him for 2 years now, and he hasn't even played a snap as a 49er, and they haven't missed a beat at running back. All right, they've got running backs for days. They seem to have tackles for days. They're on their 4th and 5th tackle. It's amazing what they've been able to do. They're missing one of their starting corners, and the party just continues to go on and on. And like I said, the defense has been outstanding. The run game has been stellar. And the only piece they had been missing all season was consistent play out of Jimmy G. If they can get this kind of play from Jimmy G moving forward, the man had 4 passing touchdowns, only 9 incompletions on 37 attempts, and he threw for well over 300 yards. He was magnificent, and every big throw that had to be made in this game, he made it, including the final throw of the game, which was just clutch. Steps up in the pocket, threatens the run, forces the defense to collapse, and then finds the tight end, who then gets the first down. He couldn't have executed that any better. The touchdown pass in the end zone, and the beauty of all of the touchdown passes, they were the 4 different guys. He was spreading the rock around. And Deebo Samuel dropped another touchdown pass. And they ultimately got the touchdown on that same drive. But, I mean, he spread the football around. George Kittle had a touchdown. Emmanuel Sanders, E-Man Sanders, is going to be a fantastic addition to this football team. You're already seeing it pay dividends now, and I think he's going to be the missing piece offensively for them at the receiver position. E-Man Sando had a touchdown grab. You had a touchdown grab to Dante Pettis, and there was another touchdown grab in there. Who am I missing? I can't remember who the other one. Oh, my Kendrick Bourne. So, I mean, they've got all of these different guys making plays for them, and Jimmy G was outstanding. The touchdown pass to Pettis, that was a great throw, and I know he was wide ass open. Those are easy to miss in this league, and he kind of threw that one flat-footed, just like he did that third down conversion to E-Man Sam, which was arguably one of the biggest plays of the game, with pressure in his face, under duress, can't really step into the throw. He throws him open on that play. But to me, the most gorgeous pass of the night wasn't any of the touchdown passes, wasn't that third down throw there. It was the one where he threw it to E-Man Sam coming out of the break on about a 14-yard bench route. And E-Man Sam comes out of that, and it would look more like just a deep out cut. I don't even think it was a bench route because he wasn't going up the field, but it was so precise. He comes out of the break, whips his head around, and the football is there. As Troy Aikman said, you don't see that timing and precision in the league very much anymore. That used to be a staple back in the day, especially for like the Cowboys with Troy Aikman. Everything was precision. You know, Michael Irvin would run 12 back to 10. He'd whip that head around and the football would be on him. And you always hear Michael Irvin say with Troy Aikman, all he had to do a lot of times, he said 9 times out of 10 with Troy, all I had to do was put my hands up and the ball was there. And so you just don't see that anymore with guys being that accurate with the timing and accuracy and precision that you saw on that particular play. And as Troy highlighted, that's with a guy that's only been on the team for just a little bit over a week. So that was amazing to see. That was by far and away my favorite throw of the night. Jimmy G had it going. And if he's going to do that moving forward, coupled with the run game that we know is dominant, coupled with the defense that we know, they didn't have their best game tonight. They didn't have their fastball. And rightfully so, on a short week, a quick turnaround, you expect them to have a little bit of a letdown. But and you have to travel on a Thursday night. It's not easy, but they did what they had to do. They salvaged this game, got the victory, 8-0, and now you get a little bit of a layoff between now and your next game. And so if they can get Jimmy G to play this way, look out for the San Francisco 49ers. I think they've got a realistic shot because I was discounting them as a true NFC contender, and not because I didn't think they were good enough. I just said Jimmy G's not going to get them where they ultimately want to go. That's not to say that I didn't think Jimmy G would ultimately get to that point down the road. But right now, I think a lot of people forget that Jimmy G hasn't started a bunch of games in this league, okay? Jimmy G, I think, is approaching 20 career starts. He's somewhere in that neighborhood. I think he's now 14-2 as a 49er starter, if I'm not mistaken. And then you look at the starts in New England. He started 4 games there. I think it was 3 or 4 games when Brady got suspended. And so I think he's approaching 20 starts for his NFL career. So you're talking about a guy that hasn't played a ton of football in this league. So he's young still. But you're starting to see the maturation of Jimmy G, man. This was an outstanding game. And I get it. It's the Cardinals, and they're not great defensively. I get all of that stuff. But got to give credit where credit is due. And Jimmy was outstanding tonight. And if he can duplicate this moving forward, 49ers are a legit NFC championship contender. And you can go ahead, throw them up there with. And I know a lot of you are already putting them in that discussion. I thought that the Saints with Drew Brees and the way they're playing defense and Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas, I just said, okay, I'll put them over the 49ers. And Green Bay with the way Aaron Rodgers #1, and then the way that they're playing defense, even though their defense isn't great. I think the Saints defense is much better. The 49ers defense is much better. But the X factor there is Aaron Rodgers. And so I really now am starting to come around to the 49ers if Jimmy G is going to play like this. This was a fantastic performance by Jimmy G tonight in this game. I thought the defense was a little soft tonight, but again, I've seen one chink in the armor defensively for the 49ers throughout the entire season, and that's opening drives of either half. You can move the football on them. We saw it against the Rams. Rams took it right down the field on them, scored a touchdown. The Redskins moved it right down the field and missed the field goal in some really poor conditions. But nonetheless, Adrian Peterson had 9 straight carries at one point, and they were matriculating the football down the field. You saw it again tonight. Moved it right down the field, did the Cardinals on the opening possession of the game. Moved it right down the field and scored a touchdown on the opening possession of the second half. So you can move the football on these guys. Opening possession, once they settle in, start to make adjustments, that's when they become really tough. And so you got to strike while the iron's hot against this 49ers defense. And the big play given up, I saw Dick Sherman really upset. I think I know why he was upset. They were in man-to-man coverage, and Dick Sherman is probably screaming and ranting and raving as to why they were in that kind of coverage, knowing that the Cardinals needed that exact type of play, a big strike, quick strike type of play to get back into this game. You're up 11 points with less than 4 minutes to go. There is absolutely no reason to be playing man-to-man at that particular juncture. They've been playing zone most of the game. Keep everything in front of you. That's probably why Dick Sherman was upset. But you don't expect to give up an 88-yarder on a deep cross, okay? You just don't. And that was a perfect throw by Kyler Murray, an even better catch and run by Andy Isabella. And when the defender gambles and doesn't hit, that's what can happen. And so that was an outstanding play to get back into this game and make it very compelling towards the end. When you look at the Cardinals in this game, Kyler Murray was solid. He wasn't great, but he was solid enough. He gave his team a chance. And there were some drop balls in this football game that really hindered the offense early. But I thought Kyler Murray showed well in this football game. But how about Kenyan Drake? I talked about Kenyan Drake profusely when he was a Dolphin and when he was drafted. I said, look, this is a guy that has immense talent, and he just needs to go somewhere. And I talked about this on the podcast last week. This is a guy that if he gets to the right team, could really shine in this league, and I think he's in the perfect spot for his talents. Cliff Kingsbury is going to find creative ways to use Kenyan Drake, and he was all over the football field tonight. For a guy that had been there less than a week, you're talking about a guy that was essentially there 3 days, and he's got over 100 yards rushing, probably another 50 or 60 yards receiving in this game. He was outstanding, man. He was really a one-man show for a lot of this game for the Arizona Cardinals, and that was fun to watch. I'm a big fan of Kenyan Drake. The one thing I will say is we got to get him out of the 40s, man. That is not an okay number to be wearing for a guy like Kenyan Drake. We got to fight. And I know he came to the party late, and when you show up late, you got to take whatever's left. But we got to find a way to get this man a 20 or at least a 30-something. That 41 has got to go. But nonetheless, he was outstanding in this football game. Buda Baker was everywhere in this game. Him and George Kittle were having a nice little battle. Speaking of George Kittle, let me double back for a second. George Kittle is effing awesome. That's my guy. I talked about him on the podcast last year when people were still sleeping on George Kittle. Well, the secret's out now. Everybody knows about George Kittle. The guy suffered a hyperextension of his knee. Probably second play of the game. Might have even been the first play of the game offensively for the 49ers. Stayed in the entire game and balled out. Beast mode on those boys. Love me some George Kittle. Hard to stop him. And I think when you start mentioning best tight ends in the league, you shouldn't be reeling off too many names before you get to George Kittle if he's not at the top of that list right now. Just love what that guy brings to the table. And I love the energy that he brings and plays the game with, man. George Kittle is so much fun to watch, and he's awesome. But back to Buda Baker, who was equally as awesome and energetic for the Arizona Cardinals. That guy is just a big ball of energy. He was all over the football field, defending passes, in the run game. You name it, he was doing it in this game. If they can get more guys to play with their hair on fire like him on that defense, they may be all right in Arizona, but they've still got a ways to go on both sides of the football. But it was a very valiant performance by the Arizona Cardinals, and I thought they would put up a fight. But I just knew they weren't going to have enough when it was all said and done, and the better team would prevail, and that is exactly what happened in this game. I do want to mention one thing about head coach Cliff Kingsbury. I thought that was a very foolish challenge at the end of the game. And I thought he had 2 blunders in this game. The timeout right before the half cost his team 4 points. You lose the game by 3 points. I'm just saying that's the second time in Arizona this season that a timeout called by the coach erroneously has cost a team in that building. In the first game of the season, the Detroit Lions versus the Cardinals called a timeout that really hurt them in a game that the Lions would have won. If not for that timeout, they were going to get a defensive stop, they were going to convert on a third down on a screen pass. They instead had to do the play over. Cardinals get the stop, and they ultimately punt. Cardinals get the game-tying score. Game goes to overtime, ends in a tie. So here you fast forward to this game. They get the stop on the running play by the 49ers, and he calls the timeout. They run the play again. This time they decide to throw it to Emmanuel Sanders. They quick snap him. Sanders is at fullback. They don't have a chance to adjust to that. He gets into the flats. It's a touchdown. That one hurts. That one stings because, again, that's a 4-point swing instead of really it's a 7-point swing because they were going for the touchdown and you had stopped them versus now they get a touchdown. So that's 7 points. You lose the game by 3. You do the math. And then finally at the end of the game, you don't challenge those types of spots. And it was a double whammy because the clock was already stopped. It'd be one thing if that play ended in the field of play and you weren't sure about the spot and the clock was running. Well, hell, you can use the timeout by challenging, and it wouldn't really hurt you in that situation because you're challenging. If you don't win, you burn a timeout, but we're going to burn that timeout anyway. But in this particular instance, the clock is already stopped. You're not going to win this challenge. Don't challenge. Don't waste that timeout. You're going to need it. Instead, you get the double whammy. Clock's already stopped. You essentially burn a timeout, lose the challenge. It's a first down, and now you only got 1 timeout left plus a 2-minute warning. Bad coaching on the part of Cliff Kingsbury. I hope he learns from this. He's a young coach, first year in the NFL. Hope he learns from this experience. If he continues to make these types of mistakes, those are the types of mistakes that can get you fired ultimately down the road. But I cut him some slack because he's a first-year head coach. These are the types of mistakes that first-year head coaches make sometimes. But he's got to be smarter. And again, I hope he learns from the mistake that he made tonight of challenging a play that shouldn't have been challenged. And he's got to know that it's not very often that those types of plays are reversed, especially when they're that close. It'd be one thing if it was egregious. If it's egregious on a ball placement, yeah, go ahead and challenge. But on a play like that, especially by the sidelines, it's one thing if it's in the field of play and you can clearly see that you got to get to the 48 for it to be a first down and that guy only made it to the 47. Yeah, okay, go ahead and challenge that. But when it's off to the sidelines and we're talking about where did the ball go out of bounds and cross the threshold of out of bounds, you're really walking a fine line. You're not going to win that. Don't challenge in that situation. But in any event, that's what he decided to do. So, let's get to your comments, and we'll get out of here. Again, I don't want to hold you guys too long. Niners fan says, damn, Lou, Andy Izzy made us sweat at the end, but we pulled it out. A dub is a dub, and we 8-0. Amen, bro. That's essentially how I feel. That was a hell of a catch and run by Andy Izzy, but at the end of the day, you got the dub, and that's all that matters. Niners fan says, Jimmy G impressed me tonight with his poise in the pocket. Absolutely. This was by far and away his best performance. I might take it a step further and say, as a pro, he might have had a game in New England when he was just out of bounds, but this was his best performance as a 49er, and I don't think it's even close. This was outstanding. And you're right, his poise in the pocket was uncanny tonight. Niners fan says, Buda Baker was flying around the field today, and I mentioned that already. He also says, my man Defoe is one of the most underrated defensive linemen in the league. I don't really know if he's underrated. If you're not watching 49ers football or football in general, then maybe he's underrated. But the man had double-digit sacks last year. Defoe is a beast. If you know football, then you know what this guy is bringing to the table. So I would hope that people would understand what Defoe has been doing and how good this guy has been for the San Francisco 49ers. But anyway, Tracy Cooper says, bro, what happened to the Redskins Nightly News tonight? Trick-or-treating. Halloween happened. You'll get that episode probably sometime tomorrow. But, Yeah, trick-or-treating and Halloween happened, man. I had to take the kids out and got home late. And by the time I got home, the game was on, and so I just jumped straight into that. So that's what happened to that. C's Up says, what are your thoughts? Okay, so we'll talk about that when we get to the Redskins Nightly News. Redskins Niners fan says, D Ford started the season slow, but he's shown that trade was worth it over the past few weeks. And you knew he was going to finally hit his stride. With all the talent around him, it was only a matter of time before he started to make plays, and you're starting to see that now. Reese says, Happy Halloween to you too, bruh. He says, Reese says, it's a seamless transition for E-Man Sand. Dude's a football player. I love E-Man Sand. I told you he's one of the most technical, efficient route runners in all of football. You're seeing it now. And he's a professional, pros pro. And that's why he could just jump in there. And it's like he's been there all season long. Love E-Man Sand. Really do. And to me, honestly speaking, he's totally worth a third and a fourth round pick. If anybody should have netted a second round pick, it should have been E-Man Sand, to be honest with you. Let's see. Azad Belial says, how good can Kyler Murray be once he gets a good O-line? Sky's the limit for Kyler. There's a reason he was the number 1 overall pick. The dude is stupid talented. Dumb. Uber talented. We all knew that. We all saw it coming out of Oklahoma. And we've seen it in different games, and we've seen flashes of it this season. And that throw to Andy Isabella tells you all you need to know, man. That is not an easy throw at all. What about the Washington Nationals? Seriously, though, congratulations to them. As much as it pains me, that's a hell of a World Series win, man. To go on the road and win 4 on the road, those guys are outstanding. And I must admit, I'm a huge Juan Soto fan. I love that dude, man. He's so awesome to watch. But I can't stand the Washington Nationals, but congratulations nonetheless. Reese says, hey, Lou, how do you fall games? And so that's what just happened, and it is what it is. The 20th Mike says, wish we could have saw another drive at the end of the game for the Cardinals. Would have been nice to have seen what Kyler Murray would have done in a pressure-packed situation. I would have much rather him needed a touchdown versus a field goal. But it would have been fun to have seen him get the football. But for the sake of my pick, which was the San Francisco 49ers, it would not have been fun to see him get the football once more. So, because I think he might have actually took them down the field and maybe even beat the 49ers. So, Jimmy G made sure that didn't happen. And that was a fun ball game. I mean, it really was. And anytime you get family members together, generally you can get these types of performances. And that's what we were able to get. And so that was a lot of fun. It really was. And I thought that the 49ers had opportunities to run away with this one in the game. But they never were able to. Credit the 49ers or the Cardinals for hanging tough in this game, man. They had opportunities to try to run away, and the Cardinals went tempo in the second half, right out of the gate, right out of the halftime break, moved it right down the field, got in the end zone, and they were able to matriculate offense. And even though they weren't always sharp offensively, the defense stepped up, got stops, and were able to keep them in the game until they were able to make some plays down the stretch to give them an opportunity to cut this to a one-possession game at 28-25. They just didn't have enough to get it done. Needed one more defensive stop, could not get it, and so thus they fall to 3-5-1 on the season with a 28-25 loss. Meanwhile, the 49ers are still perfect on the season at 8-0. So that's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Thursday Night Football Overtime. Big win for the 49ers. Cardinals continuing to show improvement. And I'm just telling you, watch out for the Cardinals, man. They're gaining confidence slowly. And I love this addition of Kenyan Drake. I really, really do. I actually think he's an even better fit for this offense than that of David Johnson. And I know that may sound crazy, but I was down on David Johnson as a fantasy guy this year, going into the league, into the season, I should say. I didn't think he would be a great fit for this offense. I think Kenyan Drake is a much better fit, to be honest with you, because Kenyan Drake has more of that third down back feel, and that's what's going to flourish in an offense run by Cliff Kingsbury. Not to say that David Johnson doesn't have those abilities, because we all know David Johnson can catch the football out of the backfield, but I think Kenyan Drake could be a difference maker in this offense. But we will see. For the 49ers, you get to lick your wounds. You got a lot of guys injured, including George Kittle. Let's hope that hyperextension isn't serious and doesn't keep him out of some game action down the road. But you had a lot of running backs banged up, but they were still able to go in this game. And you're going to start to get some of your tackles back. And you're going to get some of these players back. You had a couple of linebackers go down throughout the course of this game. So hopefully everybody's okay and you can continue on this journey that has been magnificent to start this season now at 8-0. Jimmy G, man, was he a G tonight? All right, as in greatness. That was some prime Jimmy G right there. If they're going to get that moving forward, look out for the San Francisco 49ers. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Happy Halloween to you and yours. I'm your man, Louie T. Signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage. It could be. Until next time, I'm your man, Louie T. You guys have a good one. For those of you looking for the Redskins Nightly News, that should be coming to you at some point tomorrow. You guys have a good one. And also remember, Louie T Network Podcast also coming at you tomorrow. Be on the lookout for that as well. Enjoy your weekend. We'll reconvene sometime this weekend. Have a good one.